Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the first day of the training today. So let me introduce myself again. Okay, so my name is Syed. I am the technical support engineer of SuperMap software of the Asia and Oceania department.
Приветствую, здравствуйте все. Меня зовут Сахид, и я инженер этого проекта.
Okay, so today we will discuss a few things, such as introduction to the SuperMap family, and then we will continue to the introduction to the SuperMap iDesktop, and then there will be a 10 minutes break, and the last topic that we will be discussed is the data import and export, and a few things about mapping.
Мы сегодня с вами будем обсуждать вот эти, то, что указано в списке, там потом будет 10 минут отдых, и потом продолжим рассматривать нашу тему.
Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the introduction to SuperMap family.
Давайте начнем с введения SuperMap.
Okay, so SuperMap has been founded since 1997, so it's been more than 23 years contributing to the GIS software, and it has more than 4,000 employees, has partners and branch office in many countries.
Это приложение используется больше, чем 23 года, и оно используется большинство сотрудниками больше, чем 30 странах, и это современное приложение.
And for the certification or the quality, you don't have to worry because we have followed this MMI Dev 5 and follow standard specification such as OGC, the Open Geospatial Consortium, and also the ISO certification.
Мы имеем эти сертификаты международного стандарта и OGC стандарта.
And now we will discuss the technology that is built in the SuperMap. So there is 5 main key technologies here.
Сейчас мы будем с вами обсуждать основные ключевые технологии, используемые внутри SuperMap, и там у нас 5 ключевых понятий.
Okay, so there is 5 main technologies, start from Big Data GIS, AI GIS, 3D GIS, distributed GIS, cross-platform GIS, and all of these 5 technology is the foundation for our product, which is the SuperMap GIS 10i.
Здесь указаны 5 технологий, и они являются основными фундаментальными понятиями этой программы.
Okay, so all of these 5 technology is abbreviated into a word that is BDC: Big Data, Artificial Intelligence, 3D Dimensional, Distributed GIS, and Cross-Platform GIS. And I will explain a few things about these 5 key technology and their product in the SuperMap.
Sorry, could you repeat it, please?
Okay, so all of these 5 technology that I have mentioned before is abbreviated as BDC.
То, что я только что говорила о 5 технологиях, оно является сокращенно называется BDC.
Yes. Okay, so I will explain these 5 technologies. Start from Big Data. So this is an example of Big Data applied to SuperMap. So you can see that this is an analysis for the taxi origin and destination.
Это пример использования больших данных, которые применяются в GIS-технологии. И здесь указано основные назначения.
So here you can see that there is a visualization of many data here, many data from the taxi, where they go, and their route here.
Здесь вы можете увидеть очень много данных.
Okay, here is another example of big data in SuperMap. So here you can see that there is a visualization of an airplane track here.
Есть еще другой пример, который отображает большие данных, и это было снято с аэроплана.
Yeah, so we have successfully to visualize around 400 data from 2 million data here at the database in real time.
В реальном режиме там указано очень много данных, и здесь вы можете увидеть, что здесь очень много данных.
Not only the point, we can also see the route here from the airplane route as in real time.
И здесь вы можете увидеть изменения данных в реальном режиме.
So here is another example for the AI. So on the left, you can see that tree counting for the palm trees here. And we can also do a building extraction from the oblique photogrammetry. So we can get the 3D model from the oblique photogrammetry.
Есть другой пример использования AI, и здесь мы можем увидеть здания, которые были построены в 3D-режиме.
Not only on the part of segmentation and tree counting, we can also do AI in the SuperMap for the prediction of house price by using the infrastructure data around them.
Sorry, I'm catching up you a bit slowly. Could you repeat it again?
Okay, so here is another example for the AI. So,
Есть другой пример AI.
So we can also do a prediction for the house price by using the infrastructure data around the building. Okay, so here is another example for the AR and VR, the virtual reality, the augmented reality. So we can do the augmented reality for the navigation here.
Здесь указан другой пример использования технологий AR и DR. Здесь также мы можем увидеть здесь мы также можем увидеть вот здание.
Okay, so this is the structure for the distributed computing in SuperMap. So distributed computing use a lot of things here, and it support from 2D, the standard 2D and 3D data type to the Voxel Grid and the regular grid.
Здесь указана общая структура распределенного вычисления.
So all the data here is the basis for the 3D format here from the special 3D model data format S3M, and it contains many sources of 3D data from oblique photogrammetry to pipelines.
Здесь имеется special 3D model, и с помощью вот этой модели можем создать другие виды моделей.
Okay, so the data can be accessed by SuperMap technology such as on the WebGL from the web browser, through VR, AR, or through 3D printing.
Эту технологию можно подключить с помощью WebGL, VR, AR и 3D printing.
Okay, so this is a feature of the various 3D data that is supported in SuperMap. So you can see there is an oblique photogrammetry, building information model, point cloud, and there is also a pipeline here.
Здесь вы можете увидеть поддерживаемые разные виды 3D данных. Да, вот здесь указано на первом. Это внешний вид, Big Model Data или вот Underground Pipeline указано.
Okay, so this is an example of analysis and visualization on 3D data in SuperMap.
Это пример ID Data в SuperMap.
So here an example to calculate the gradient or the slope for the 3D data. There is also another analysis that is supported in SuperMap.
С помощью SuperMap здесь вот пример для того, чтобы вычислить размеры выделенного объекта, и указаны разные вычисления.
And we can also see the attribute of the building, such as this. We can query the floor information. We can see the floor information, where is the kitchen, where is the bedroom.
Здесь тоже более подробно с помощью 3D Map можем посмотреть более подробно вот этот выделенный участок. Например, кухню мы можем посмотреть или гостиную мы можем посмотреть.
So here's an example for legality, such as the vertical legality. So we can see where building is crossing the vertical height limit. And here's another example for the horizontal legality. So we can see which building is crossing the, such as the road boundary.
Здесь мы можем увидеть другой пример, где мы можем использовать 3D legality, то есть вот в выделенном участке вдоль дороги, какая часть соприкасается с дорогой, можно увидеть здесь.
And here's an example for the augmented reality. In SuperMap, we can do a one-by-one AR, so we can experience the real building, such as we are in the building. Or we can slice the building in a small scale, so we can see a certain flow that we want to see.
С помощью вот этой указанного инструмента мы можем выделить какую-то часть зданий, мы можем его делить на части и можем увидеть эти части.
Now, this is the example for the Voxel Grid. So Voxel Grid is a grid with a continuous data, so it is good for sunshine rate, noise rate, or seismic wave.
С помощью вот этой технологии мы можем увидеть связь вот этих данных, как влияет, допустим, как влияет, вот здесь перечислено, да, шум как влияет, солнечный, как влияет, или сигналы как влияет.
Okay, so this is how a Voxel grid can be useful for 3D model. So the Voxel grid can be applied to a 3D model, so we can see where is the building area that has strong signal or has the bad signal here.
Здесь мы можем увидеть, где у нас сигналы имеют, где у нас сигналы сильные и слабые, используя Voxel сетку.
So for Cloud Native, we start our journey since 2010, and we came here. We have developed technologies such as the microservice in SuperMap and other technology from multi-cloud and distributed.
Здесь вы можете увидеть, как развивался CloudNet, и вот здесь вы можете увидеть микрообслуживание или мультиоблачное intelligent maintenance.
So this is the 5 key points for the distributed GIS in SuperMap from Edge, Cloud Native, distributed analysis, distributed data engine technology, and the GeoBlockchain technology.
Это методы, которые используются в распределенной GIS-технологии. Вот 5 методов. Edge GIS технология, облачная GIS-технология, распределенная геоанализ и так далее.
So this is an example for the benefit of blockchain. So it can be used for the food traceability. So we can secure our food. We can see the historical data if there is any modification to the food distribution.
Здесь мы можем создать связь, и там мы можем увидеть изменения.
So other than food traceability, blockchain is also useful for cadastral parcel management. So we can see the modification on the land that has happened before, and we can ensure our land data safety here.
В цепи мы можем выделить один участок, и можно увидеть предыдущие изменения.
So our technology is a cross-platform. So you can use it on many operating systems from Linux to Windows. And it can also be used on many CPU architecture such as x86 and ARM for the mobile.
Здесь указана кросс-платформенная GIS-технология, которая используется в Linux операционных системах с AX и которая поддерживает вот x86, ARM и так далее.
So now we will discuss the product technologies in SuperMap.
Сейчас мы будем обсудить продукты SuperMap.
So here is the list of products in SuperMap, starting from cloud, edge, and the desktop. There is PC, WebGIS, and mobile.
Здесь вы можете увидеть список, который используется в облачных технологиях до мобильных технологий.
On the cloud, we have the iServer as the geospatial data server. So it serves geospatial data through an internet, through the HTTP connection.
В клауд-технологиях... Could you repeat it again, please?
Okay. So on the cloud, we have iServer as the geospatial data server. So it serves geospatial data from the server to client.
Здесь вот в облачной мы имеем iServer, которая хранит данные.
Okay, so there is also an iPortal here. So we can create a geoportal without coding. So if we don't have a software development background, then iPortal is a good choice if you want to build a geoportal.
Если у вас не установлено типа средства, которое будет взаимодействовать с облачной SuperMap, то мы можем использовать iPortal.
So there is also an iManager. So iManager is used to manage the iPortal and iServer.
So iManager is used to manage. Здесь мы тоже имеем iManager, который управляет iPortal и iServer.
So there is also an IH. So IH can give an optimization for the child computer from the parent computer. Okay, so there is also on the PC here, we have for the iDesktop, we have the iDesktop.net and iDesktopX. So iDesktop.net is only for the Windows, and the cross-platform version of the desktop SuperMap is this iDesktopX.
В PC у нас имеется iDesktopNet и iDesktopX. iDesktopNet используется для Windows и iDesktopX для кросс-платформенной системы, да?
Okay, so there is also an iObject. So iObject can be used to add another function that is not available in iDesktop yet.
Здесь мы имеем еще iObject. У него больше способностей, чем iDesktop имеет.
And for the web technology, we have iClient here. So we can build an online map by using the iClient.
Здесь у нас имеется iClient, оно используется в веб-технологии.
And for the mobile devices, we have iMobile. to develop a GIS mobile application from scratch. And we also have a tablet that is ready to use and available in the Play Store and App Store.
Для вот мобильных устройств у нас имеется iMobile, iTablet и можете продолжить.
So that is the product in SuperMap.
Здесь продукты SuperMap.
So here is an example of how we can connect the SuperMap product with big data. So there is an Internet of Things here, and we connect it to the iServer, and we serve them directly to the iDesktop, iObject, or we can serve them to iPortal.
Здесь указан пример, как мы можем использовать SuperMap с Big Data, и здесь с левой стороны указаны способы связывания, и для того, чтобы связывать вот эти два объекта, мы должны с iServer связывать, мы можем использовать iPortal.
This is a few examples of the visualization and analysis on iDesktop.
Здесь вы можете увидеть несколько примеров, которые используются iDesktop для анализа.
So in iDesktop, we can consume various data from 2D and 3D, and we can analyze those 2D and 3D data. So you can see there is a building data and an oblique photogrammetry here.
Мы можем здесь анализировать существующие данные. Is the last sentence? Could you repeat it again?
So this is an example of analysis on and the data consuming in SuperMap iDesktop. So we can visualize the building information model and the oblique photogrammetry.
Oblique photogrammetry. Здесь вы можете увидеть пример анализа с помощью iDesktop.net. И вот последнюю не поняла.
So other than the analysis and visualization, we can also do an artificial intelligence. So we can extract the tree counts by using the iDesktop X. So this is the product line for the cloud base from the iServer, the server Gis, and there is the portal in iX that I have mentioned before. And there is also a few sub-modules such as the data feeds and data insight, dashboard, and Earth for the 3D visualization.
Здесь вы можете увидеть несколько моделей, сервер GIS, портал GIS, Edge GIS и подмодели Data Viz, Data Insight, Dashboard, and Earth.
So this is a few examples for iPortal. So we can create an online mapping or a dashboard which have a chart and maps here.
Здесь вы можете увидеть еще несколько примеров. Вы можете нажать онлайн-мэппинг, вы можете увидеть здесь дашборд, и вы можете увидеть карту.
Okay, and for the mobile base, this is few example for the use case of the iTablet, we can have an AR navigation, so we can see where road that we should have to go.
Здесь вы можете...
And this is also an example to collect data, to do the data collection by using the iMobile.
Здесь вы можете увидеть модели, которые используются в мобильных устройствах. Это iMobile и iTablet. С помощью их мы можем увидеть, выделить структуру и увидеть данные.
Okay, so let's continue to the introduction for the iDesktop in more of a brief introduction.
Давайте продолжим и более подробно будем рассматривать iDesktop.
So this is the interface of the SuperMap iDesktop. If you open the application, then you will have this kind of interface.
Если вы откроете iDesktop, то вы можете увидеть вот такой интерфейс.
So if you are familiar with Windows product...
sorry, Mr. Sahid,
yes?
We should open our iDesktop program first.
No. I'm only explaining the interface right now. We will discuss the desktop after the break.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the interface from the, as you can see on the left, there is a quick access bar here to save or do opening. And under the top left button, there is a ribbon here that has a lot of menu from start. There is to open the file data, and there is also tab menu of data analysis and many more.
Здесь вы можете увидеть ленту. Сверху ленты мы можем использовать команды быстрого доступа. И на ленте мы можем увидеть очень много инструментов.
So on the left sidebar, we have the Workspace Manager, so we can manage the workspace. That the workspace will be discussed later. And there is also a layer manager here to manage the data that want to be visualized on the map window here.
И поэтому налево screen. Sahid, вы можете, Sahid, can you share the whole screen? Because we can't see the whole screen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very small. Здесь вы можете видеть слева, видеть наш менеджер, рабочий менеджер. Вот так. Sahid, вы можете... Sahid, can you share it like the normal one, because it's very small, like bigger?
This one?
Yeah, it's very small. I can't see it.
It is Workspace Manager.
Yeah, yes. And здесь вы можете видеть окно, вы видите окно гарды, и еще менеджер, рабочий менеджер, еще другие.
Okay, so there is also a status bar on the bottom here, so we can see the mouse coordinate and the projection system.
This we, yeah. So I'm sorry that I can't see it clearly.
How about now?
Здесь вы можете видеть бар, статус, еще окно импорт, экспорт.
Again, there is also an output window down here. So if we do analysis, the history of the analysis will be put down here.
Если вы хотите делать анализ, вы можете здесь вот здесь. Да. Yes. Can continue.
Okay, so that is the interface, and now I will give a brief introduction to the GIS data organization in SuperMap.
Да, только что это наш интерфейс, и сейчас мы будем показать вам SuperMap, организацию данных SuperMap GIS.
So Workspace is the root folder, so it is the container for the map, layout, scene, and resources. So this for here is saved in the Workspace.
Только что мы уже показали вам рабочее пространство, и сейчас мы будем показать вам карту, еще другие интерфейсы.
So there is also a data source. So data source is like a database. So it can be a database or a local file. And the data set is the layer inside the data source.
Source данных это у нас другие как could you please repeat, please?
Okay, so data source is like a file or like a database, and it has a data set here as the layer inside the data source.
Мы здесь имеем data source, и это похоже на файлы, и он как слои, там у нас находится data sets.
Okay, so this is for the Workspace. So Workspace is used to save the work environment. So it can be saved as a file in the format of XXWU or SMWU. And it can also be saved on the database from the SQL server and many SQL database.
Рабочая область, его можно сохранить с расширением CXVU, или мы можем его сохранить как XML файл, или мы можем его сохранить в SQL сервер базе данных или Oracle базе данных.
Yes. Okay. So on the Workspace here, we can save the data source location. So we can save the data source that we want to open and analyze, and we can also create maps, layout, resources can be saved in the Workspace too.
На рабочую область мы можем там открыть месторасположение, мы можем открыть там модели, мы можем сохранить карту, мы можем сохранить слои, ресурсы и так далее.
Data source. So datasets can be many types from a point, line, region, text, or can be a raster dataset.
Здесь указано на дата-сети. Это совокупность однотипных данных. Это может быть точечные данные, это может быть линейные данные, или это может быть сетные данные.
Okay, so there is also layers. So layers is the component of the map. So the difference between dataset is that dataset is only the data, but the layers is a dataset that the visualization of the dataset on the map.
Здесь мы имеем еще слои. Разница между датасет и слоями состоит в том, что слои — это часть датасет.
So on the layers here, we can do a few symbology or visualization. We can set how we want to be visualized as a range color or as a text.
Сейчас, минуточку. Здесь мы можем увидеть One minute. Карта может состоять из многих слоев, и здесь мы можем использовать вот эти инструменты. Можете продолжить, потом понятно будет. Can you go on? Maybe later when we work with the application will be clear for us.
Okay,
With the application will be.
Okay, so this is the maps. So this is the maps component on the SuperMap. So maps is composed from layers and dataset. So dataset contain the data, and then we set the symbology or visualization, and then we visualize them in maps.
Здесь у нас имеется карта, и он типа создается из датасет, из слоев. Сначала датасет, потом layers, а потом мы создаем карту.
And there is also layouts. So layouts is different from maps. Layouts can contain many maps, and layouts is used to if you want to print maps and set maps components such as scale and legend.
Это слои. Он может состоять из нескольких карт. Мы можем там указать размеры карт и легенду указать. IDG?
Sakita, I think you can continue. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the resources. So it contains a collection of a symbology such as the icon, fill symbol, and line symbol.
Sorry. Sorry, could you repeat the last?
So this is the resources. Resources is like a collection of symbol. So it contains the icon, line symbol, and the fill for the polygon.
Здесь у нас имеются ресурсы. Это коллекция символов, которые расположены внутри библиотеки. И вот эти ресурсы могут содержать в себе маркеры, линии и разные заполняющие символы могут содержать символы.
So this is the 3D scene. So we can also select the 3D scene in SuperMap ID stop. So there is a visualization here on the right side.
Здесь мы можем увидеть 3D сцены. Go on.
Okay, so that is for the first topic. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Maybe we can have a 5 to 10 minute break. Isn't it, Olga?
So, мы в общем виде рассмотрели SuperMap 10 минут перерыв и потом продолжим.
Okay, so for the second topic, I will give a short introduction to the data tab that can be imported to ID Stock, and then we will open the ID Stock application to do it on the application.
На презентации я представляю кодирование данных, импорт и экспорт кодирования данных. И а также здесь вот, представляем программное обеспечение SuperMap. Далее.
Okay, so this is the three topics on this, on the data import and mapping.
Здесь данный контент курса, который мы представляем, как вы видите, по базовым ресурсам Gis и другие.
Okay, so and the GIS data is the main topic, and it's very important, and is the primary task to construct the GIS system from the GIS data.
Как мы знаем, основной задачей GIS базы является сконструирование системы Gis, а также один из проблем, наиболее касающихся Gis, это стоимость человеческой и финансовых ресурсов.
Data source can be from many data, as we have known that can be from remote sensing.
Go on, please.
Okay, so the process of the collection of the data source start from gathering data. It can be from field surveying, or we can download from the internet. Then we start process them into a paper map or an electronic data, such as an analysis result.
Источники GIS данных мы разделили на два пункта. Первый – это собрание данных. К ним относится загрузка из интернета, покупка данных через организации или там предприятий, сбор и покупка с различных правительственных отделов, а также please wait a little. Второе – это обработка данных. Здесь данные форматы данных. Векторные
So this
данные,
is
растерные данные.
okay. This is an so a vector and raster data can be consumed directly into SuperMap. We can import them.
Где по SuperMap вы можете вывести данные по таким форматам. AutoCAD, ArcGIS.
Yes, so this is the full format that can be consumed to SuperMap.
Эти форматы. Go on, please.
So this is the image. I will show it in the application later.
Векторное импортирование данных на формате CAD.
And in SuperMap there is a difference between CAD dataset and simple dataset.
И здесь сравнение импортирования результатов через CAD датасет и обычный датасет.
Okay, and a simple dataset is the usual vector data that is usually used in a GIS application, and CAD dataset from a CAD application. And the CAD dataset contain a style, and the simple dataset does not contain any style. And in
Обычного датасет, если вы работаете в формате CAD, все точки, линии поддерживаются.
The dataset can be imported directly into the SuperMap at desktop, but it cannot be analyzed. So if you want to analyze this on CAD dataset, we have to convert them to a simple dataset.
Go on, please.
Okay, so the example of CAD dataset, they have its own style, and simple dataset does not have a style yet.
Здесь даны примеры через импорт данных через CAD и обычные данные, да.
Just an example for importing GIS data vector.
А здесь указаны данные импортирования векторных данных через GIS формат, Map Info формат и так далее.
Okay, so we can also import the attribute tables from CSV or XLX as a attribute dataset.
Здесь выведена таблица, таблица определения по импортированию векторных данных.
And you can also import the raster data set from PMP to TIFF.
Также вы можете через SuperMap использовать импортирование растерных данных через следующие форматы. Общий рисуночный файл и сжатый рисуночный файл, файл изображения, сжатое изображение.
Okay, so now let's open the ID stop. I will open the ID stop and show you the thing that I have explained before.
Давайте откроем упражнение, да? Пошли.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Okay.
Let's continue, please.
Okay. So here you can see the user interface of ID stop. If you are familiar with Microsoft product, then it should be easy to understand because it uses a ribbon design here.
В адресной строке вы видите start, да? Start и дальше Untitled Chapter. Нужно подписывать.
Okay, so to start the import data, we can create a data source by right click on the data source here.
Чтобы начать наше создание данного файла, мы должны сначала создать источник данных.
Right click and press the new file data source to create a file data source.
Нажимайте на новый файл data source, источник данных.
And choose the place that you want to save the data source and define the name such as data source.
Нажимайте на необходимый ресурс.
And then press save or press enter, and it will create the new data source under the data sources.
Это вы уже его сохраняете на ресурсные данные ресурсов. Data source.
Okay, so this new data source is saved as a file and it's still empty. Then we have to import by right click on the data source and click on the import data set. Hello, is everything fine?
У вас получилось, да? Yes, they opened import data.
Okay, so we have this import data dialog, and then there is a button here to add a file or to add a folder. For now, let's try to use the add file button here. Left click.
Файл, если хотите загрузить, нажимаете на файл, если папку загрузить, тогда на папку нажимаете.
And then we can try to find the data such as a shape file data here. Click on the shape file and then open it.
И нажимаете искомый файл и нажимаете на Open. И оно загрузится у вас. Wait a little, please.
Is everything fine? Is everything okay?
Yes,
Okay.
they opened and imported the file.
Okay, can I continue?
Извините, у вас есть какой-то проблем?
Нет.
Сейчас мы можем дальше? Или нужно ждать вас немножко?
Нет, уже можно продолжать.
Захите, continue now.
Okay. So here on the import data dialog, there is a few options such as we can choose the data source to be saved, and we can define the data set name, so we can make it different with the file name. And there is also an import mode. So if we have a data set, such as if we have a Sanshi data set already here in the data source, then we can choose to append to the existing data set, or we can overwrite the existing data set. So we delete the existing data set and write a new one with the imported here. Okay, so now we'll choose none. And there is also a few options such as import null data set if there is an empty row which does not contain anything. We can choose to import them. And we can also choose to import the data as a 3D data. And we can create a spatial index here to optimize the query or the analysis on a spatial data. And now let's click import to import the data here. And then if after the data imported, you can see that the Sansi has the symbol of like a polygon here. That means it's a region. Okay, so now let's try to import another data set, such as a cat data set. Right click on the data source and import data set. And then press add file. And let's try to import a cat here from DWG drawing file, then open it. So you can see that the data, if you import a cat file, there is more option here, and its type is cat dataset. So for the cat dataset, it has few other options below here. And we can also define the data set type as a cat or a simple data set. If we define it as a cat, then we can visualize them as in a cat, but we cannot do any analysis on the data set. So now let's try to import it as a cat data set. And then there is a few options here, like we can import an invisible layers that has a transparent layer style. We can import a block attribute. We can also keep the object height and keep the parametric object, and we can set the scale. Because sometimes a cat dataset is in a different unit, such as in a millimeter or centimeter, then we can define the scale factor here. But this dataset is in the same unit as the projection system, so we don't have to define the scale factor, and we can directly import it. Okay, as you can see, the cat dataset already imported here on the data source, and it has the icon of cat here. And then we can visualize the data set, the simple data set here, by right-click on the data set name, and we can press the add to new map. Okay, and then there will be a new window here. A new window, a map window here, and this is the data set visualized as a layer here. So you can see the layer manager here, and there is a new ribbon here that is available for the maps, and we can do a thematic mapping, setting the style. Setting the style, and we can also do an AR mapping, and there is also an object operation. Okay, so now let's try to add another type of data set and visualize them on the maps.
Sorry, Mr. Sahid.
Yes.
Could you send to us your data source?
Oh, okay. I can send the
I
link
will
of
write
my
in
file.
the chat my email address. Or can we download it in the chat?
Yes, I can share the Google Drive link. Is that okay?
Okay.
Just wait. Let me share them.
Ребята, чуть-чуть отстали, вот где файл подключается. Можно еще раз?
Айтычы? Файлдарды жөнөткөнгө?
Файлды байлағандычы. Файлдарды түспей.
Азыр мен эмесин сурадым да, база данныхын, у него же готовый же бар да, ошону эле бизге жөнөтүп кое алабы депчи. У вас уже Sorry, Mr. Sahid.
Yes.
Mr. Sahid, you created your data source, new data source. Yeah?
Oh, my data source. Okay.
Can you show us this one again?
Okay, so you want me to show how to create the data source again? Okay, so to create a data source, we can right-click on the data sources and press the new file data source.
Для того, чтобы создать базу данных, вот мы должны открыть нашу программу SuperMap. Там у нас есть Data Source. Нажимаем правую кнопку мыши и выберем команду New File Data Source.
Okay, and then we click the new file data source, and there will be a new data source dialog that we have to define where we want to save the data source. So after we have import and we have visualized them on the map here. And then on the map, we can do a few things, such as we can set the visibility by clicking on this eye icon here. And we can also jump into the location of the data set, such as we have moved to somewhere else, and then we can right click on the data source and click on full extent. We will move directly to the data set here. And we can also create a thematic mapping. By right click on the data set name, and then we can click on the create thematic map. And then we can set a value for each attribute data, such as we choose a unique value of unique colors for each unique value, and press OK. And then there will be a new sidebar here on the right side. So you can see we can choose which field that we want to visualize from user ID or name. Let's say we color it by name, and then we will have a different color for each name. Okay, so here we can set a unique value for each each unique value. And now let's try to, other than thematic mapping, we can also set same style for all of them without the thematic mapping. We can right click on the dataset name and we can choose the layer style. And then here we can define few things, such as we can set the fill colors. You can choose what's color of the fill here in the foreground. You can also set the transparency from 0 to 100. If we set it to 100, then there will be no fill here. There will be an empty region. And then we can also change the line style here. As this is, there is a few options other than a straight line. There is a dash line with a few spaces option. As you can see, if we choose the dash and we zoom, then we can see that there is the line become dash, not a straight line. And we can also change the line color to another layer colors. And we can also set the line width here. It's in millimeter. So that is for the styling. And on this map window here, you can see that down the map window, there is a scale. What is the current scale here? 1/3 million. And we give zoom, and then the scale will change, or we can change to a certain scale by click on this row and choose which scale we want to see, and then we zoom to the selected scale. So, and then there is also an option for the mouse coordinate here, as you can see beside the scale. And there is also a projection information for the map window. And there is also the current center of this map window. So this is the center here is the center of this window. Okay, so we can save the maps by, if we close this map, then it will prompt us if we want to save it or not. Let's try to save it, and press yes and define the name and click on the OK button, and then the maps will be saved under these maps here. Okay, so other than these maps and symbology, we can also see the projection coordinate system by right-click on this data set, and we can go to the properties, and then we can see the information here, such as from the data set here. In the new right side menu, there will be a data set tab showing what is the name and what is this type. There is also the data set bounds, and then the projection coordinate system can be seen in this coordinate tab menu. So you can see the coordinate name and what is the unit, and we can also change it by click on this reset coordinate system and choose the coordinate system that you want to choose. Okay. And to do a projection transformation, we can use this one. If you want to transform the dataset to another projection, here you can see the data source, the dataset that we want to convert or we want to transform, and then the result name, and then we can choose the target coordinate system here on the plus button, and can press more and choose the coordinate system that we want to choose here. Okay, we have choose them, and then we can press convert here. Or if you want to change to use another method for the transformation, you can choose it under the method list here. There is a few method. There is a few transformation method here. Okay, so this is vector information of this data set. Like this, we have 10 records. That means that we have 10 rows of 10 rows of records. And then this is the index type, the special index type. And this is stored as a SuperMap because it's stored in the data source. And then there is also an attribute table. So it contains the field of the attribute table. So if we want to change the name, the field name, we can directly change it into something else. Then we can press apply to save it. Or if we want to add another row, we can use this plus button to add another field. We can define the name. So we define name 2, and then we can define the type here. So as you can see, there is so many type here. From this is short, integer, and there's also long. Long is like an integer but has a longer range, and there is also a decimal as a double here, and there is also a text char and char for the string or the text if you want to save it as a text, and there is also a date and a byte. Then we can also define if we want it to be required or not. Okay. Is there any difficulties till now? Okay, I should not. So now let's try to import a few dataset from the mapping folder. If you have download the file from the link, you can click on the import dataset again. You can right click on the data source and import dataset. File. So if you have downloaded the data from the link that I have shared, there is a folder called mapping, and the mapping folder contains this file. And now let's try to open this city. This old file. Import them. Now, if you have successfully import all of them, then they will have a different icon referring to each dataset type, such as this village is a point, so it has a point icon, and words is a polygon icon. And as you can see, it doesn't have any texture, it doesn't have a 3D words. If it's a 3D, then it will have something like a 3D text here. So now let's try to add them to maps. So we can see it. We can click on the city and hold shift, press the water to highlight all of it, and right click and then add to new map. Okay, and then all of this can be seen here on the map here. And then we can, let's try to save it. We can press the Ctrl+S to save and define the name. So you can change the name by click on this rename and change it to like city and then save. Now, if you press the Ctrl+S, and then it will also prompt us to save the workspace. So we can choose where we want to save the workspace. But before that, can you see that on the left side here, the workspace is still untitled. But if we, now let's define the workspace name by defining the file name and the file location. And then if we click this folder button, then there will be a new window here to save the workspace and the location and the file name. For example, let's save it as a sample and then press save. Then you can see on the file name, there is the absolute location for the file name. Then we can set a password if you want to make it more secure. But now let's not set a password. And then let's press the save button. Okay, and then as you can see here, the workspace is untitled earlier, but now it has become the file name has become example. It follows the file name that we have defined when we save the workspace. So is there any question for the data import and creating and displaying on the maps?
Вопросы есть? Нет.
Hi Sakit, у них есть... Hi Sakit, they don't have any
Yes.
question. They don't have any questions. You can continue.
Okay, I guess let me show you one thing more for the how to see the attribute. Okay, so if you have import the data source, the file on the data source, if you right click on the data set, you can see a few options here. So now there is also here a browse attribute table to see the attribute table of this data set here. We can add them to a new map. If we add to new map, then it will create a new map. But if we add to current map, then it will add them to the current map that currently active here. And there is also a spherical scene to add them a 3D space. And we can also copy the data set to duplicate them or copy them to another data source. And then we can also export the data set here. So now let's try to the browse attribute table here. Okay, so if we right click and browse attribute table, then a new attribute table will be shown here just to show the attribute table. As you can see, so SuperMap create additional field defined by SuperMap here. If you save it as a data source, so it creates SMID, and then it also create an area and perimeter and the geometry data field here. But the original, if we don't want to see the field that generated by SuperMap, we can click the hide system fields to see the original field, which is the SM user ID, and name. Okay, so now let's try to export the data set. We can try to right click and on the certain data set and click on export data set. And then a new window, a new dialog, an export data dialog will open. And you can see here, there is an add. We can add another data set other than this. We want to export more data sets. Just let's try to export village. Okay, and then we can also remove. We can remove if you don't want to export it. And there is also these settings is to assign to all. If we have many data sets that we want to export and that we want to export them to the same place and same type, we can use this assign to all. Then we can define the export type, the type we want to save. Now let's try to save it as a GeoJSON file. Then we can choose to overwrite or not. If we find an existing file, if we click no, then there will be an error if there is an existing file with the same name. Then we can choose the export directory where we want to save the data set. If we press this folder button, then a new dialog will open, so we can define where we want to save the data set. Let's try to pick a new folder. Well, sample. Then just an example. Press OK. then you can see that the export path has changed here. But other than that, we can also change it directly here. We can double click. For example, if we want to change the export path, we can double click and a new dialog will open to choose another location. We can also define the file name by double click on the result file here and change the name. And this is the status information, if we have configured or not, and we can choose to replace it or not if there is an existing file. So now let's try to export it. Okay, if we have export and if it's success, there will be a notification on the bottom right here, says successful export. Okay, I guess that is for the data import and mapping. Is there any question?